The Inquisitive Mamba podcast, episode 57. Welcome back to another episode. I can't wait to record today for you guys and talk all about March Madness, the NFL, the NBA. There's so much to unpack on today's show. We're going to try to keep it around 45 minutes to an hour because I got some March Madness games to catch and watch, but I hope everyone is having a great week. I know I am, and I'm super excited to watch these March Madness games. Going to get into my picks a little later on the show and then go from there. But how about a crazy week this week in the NFL? So many free agents flying off the board. It's crazy to say the least. So much money flying around. Uh, Teams last year that weren't as good getting much better. Quarterback carousel. Jimmy G to the Raiders. Baker Mayfield to the Bucks. Aaron Rodgers saga. We're definitely going to get into that. There's just so much to talk about. So, first of all, let's talk about it. Aaron Rodgers, the drama, the drama, the drama. So I watched the Pat McAfee show yesterday. I really don't watch that show. I don't really have a lot of time to watch a lot of sports shows, but I did get a chance to listen to what Rodgers had to say, and most people were really excited about if the decision was going to be Rodgers, deciding if he was going to go to the Jets yesterday on the show. And clearly that wasn't the case. He was basically catching everybody up to speed that basically only, what your sources, where you hear your sources from aren't exactly true. My intention, was to play for the Jets. Things are just kind of being held up at the moment. His wish list, which wasn't true, he came out and said that on the show, which was also funny as well. So, my thoughts when I was listening to Rodgers, I've always thought Rodgers is a very smart guy. He graduated from Cal, if I'm not mistaken. He's a very smart guy. He's very analytical. He knows exactly what he's talking about. He doesn't put himself in uncomfortable positions where he's going to make a mistake or mess up. And it's really nice to hear his side of the story in a way, because right now we're just hearing from ESPN, Fox Sports, all the sports media outlets on what Rodgers is going to do, his decision. And then also what caught me was is he said when he before he went into the Hayuska, or his little retreat there, he said he was 90% retired and 10% playing. So that's what really got me there. And then, during the show, he really broke down what, the retreat was like, and, his decision going forward and how much love he has for the Packers, so on and so forth. But that's kind of, a little bit of takeaway from that. The next thing I do want to talk about Aaron Rodgers is the Jets and the Packers supposedly today are not on terms for him to come to the Jets. And obviously he said his intention was to play for the Jets, and everything's going to have to work out contract wise, trade, because in the show, on there he did say I'm technically still under contract with the Packers. So that's technically true in a way. So he can't just hop, skip, and a beat and leave the Packers. So there's some complications there. I do think this deal will get done. I probably by the next episode I record, they'll have a deal done. It's just, they're working out the numbers, they're working out, the trade pieces, because I don't think the Jets want to make the mistake. I know they really want Rodgers, obviously, and I'm sure it's a done deal. It's just, how it's, going to work out and what's, in play, because obviously you had the Russell Wilson trade last year, and that, last year was a disaster. Now we're not saying it could change, in a heartbeat. This upcoming season, it could definitely change. You had the Matthew Stafford trade to the Rams. They won the Super Bowl there. So, and I just think that the Jets really want Rodgers, but the Packers are, they want a haul, of course, because if we're giving you our Hall of Fame quarterback, we're going to want a lot in return. So the Jets are going to have to, bite the bullet and say, if that's how we're going to get Rodgers, we're going to have to give the two first. So at this point, if it were me, I would definitely do the two first, get it over with, because what's the holdup now? And the Jets just signed Alan Lazard too. That's another guy Aaron Rodgers is familiar with. He was on the Packers. They signed him to a 4-year, $44 million deal. So Aaron Rodgers, familiar face for him in New York. So, but if I'm the Jets, you got to get this done. You got to get on with it and continue, because the draft is coming up. You've signed some free agents already, so you just got to continue to build, and you got to get Aaron Rodgers on your team. You got to get it going. You got to start it. You got to start somewhere. So that's a little bit about the Aaron Rodgers saga drama. But Aaron Rodgers is very, very smart. Like I said, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's, putting the league on hold. It's his league right now, and that's how he's feeling. Now, may not be that case on the field. Obviously Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL, but right now the whole persona, the whole everything is all about Rodgers. It's all surrounding Rodgers right now. So Jets got to get this done. How about the Eagles, though? I think everybody knew this was coming. The amount of free agents they had on their team for this, upcoming offseason, basically, and they've lost, a handful. But the one guy that they don't want to lose is C.J. Gardner-Johnson. This is a guy who was tied in the NFL with 6 interceptions last year, had a career year. They traded for him from the Saints basically for a bag of chips. They don't want to lose this guy. So everyone else kind of just fell into the laps of other teams. You got Kaiser White, TJ Edwards, Javon Hargrave, I thought was a pretty big loss. But then again, the Eagles are wanting to go younger because you're not going to be able to pay all those guys, of course, when you have to pay Jalen Hurts. So Javon Hargrave goes to the Niners, and then Jordan Davis can slide right in there because he's the young D tackle from Georgia they drafted last year. He didn't get a lot of playing time because the Eagles were so deep on their defensive line. So it just makes the most sense to me that what the Eagles are doing. I think it's smart. And I don't think, in recent years, I've never really seen a team that have had the situation the Eagles have been having that many free agents, because usually when you win the Super Bowl or you go, deep into the playoffs or you're a contender, you're going to lose players because a lot of the lesser teams in the NFL will pick up those guys. And that's kind of what happened with the Eagles this offseason. But I just really haven't seen in the past how the Eagles, like their situation, they've lost so many players that have been free agents, but also on the back burner they have draft picks and they have younger guys. So it almost in a way it seems like they were planning for this, but I don't know. That's just how I'm taking it all with a grain of salt, and that's how I look at it. But I think the Eagles will be just fine. Obviously, the number one priority is to get an extension with Jalen Hurts, pay him what he deserves, because he deserves that contract. I've said this on a couple episodes ago. So, but I think the Eagles are in a good position, and they ended up getting Darius Slay back. And they did re-sign James Bradbury, so they get their two corners back there. I thought Darius Slay, when he did get released, I was like, oh, maybe Philly wants to part ways with him, but they work something out. They're still working out a deal here. I thought he would leave when he was released, go to a contender, and go from there. But I guess he's going to stay. So that's a little bit on the Eagles there. I want to talk about Baker Mayfield to the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield to the Buccaneers. Yes, you heard that right. The original deal was 1 year, $8.5 million, and now it's a 1 year, $4 million deal with some incentives as well. But for me, seeing Baker Mayfield go to the Bucs, I know the reports rumbled about a month ago that the Bucs could be potentially interested in him. But for me, when I heard Jason Litt at the combine say Kyle Trask is our guy, and then you go and sign Baker Mayfield, I think that just kills a quarterback's confidence. And obviously, he did sit behind Brady. Kyle Trask did for his few years he's been in the NFL. He's learned under Brady, but I mean, maybe the Bucs see something different here with Kyle Trask. Maybe they don't think he's ready, and they see Baker as a bridge QB, and that's how they want to go about it. But for me, as a young quarterback, if I was in Trask's position, I guess it would put fire under my feet, but I would also be a little upset because you're bringing in a guy who has been a journeyman. I guess now at the time of his career, he started with the Browns, Panthers, and now to the Rams short stint last year, and now to the Bucs. So my thing is I feel for Kyle Trask because I want the guy to get a shot. Obviously, coming from Florida, you can see the flag behind me, but it's just you really want to see this guy get a chance. It would just be nice to see. But there's going to be some quarterback debates there with Trask and Baker Mayfield, quarterback duels there. So I'm not the biggest fan of the Baker Mayfield signing. Maybe they see him as a starter and they want to back up Trask again, but I don't like the signing. And the thing is how many games do you think you're going to win with Baker Mayfield? Obviously, you lose Tom Brady. Nobody's replacing Brady, but I just think they should just stick with Trask and, play the season out and see how it goes. But I think that they have an aggressive GM and they still have the pieces on their roster. They think that they can somewhat contend in a way because they did re-sign Levante David. They did re-sign Jamel Dean, who took a hometown discount. So they still have Godwin and Mike Evans. So I don't know. I'm not sold on that Baker Mayfield decision, that signing, but that's my opinion about that. So how about Jimmy G to the Raiders? Sin City Jimmy G. Well, he can roll the dice all he wants. He can play all the craps. He can, hit the slots. He can do it all now. He joins his former offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels, from their time in New England. And I did say this on last episode. I thought Jimmy G would go to the Raiders. I did like the Texans as well. I obviously ruled out the Panthers as a whole, but I did like the Raiders and the Texans as the signings, obviously. And now he does land with the Raiders. He slides right in there. He's very comfortable with Josh McDaniels. So I think this is a good hire. Some people are a little, concerned about that contract. I think he got 3 years, 72 million, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the exact numbers, but it's something around there. So if you would do that, I think that's right around what, 22 and a half. Let me calculate that just to make sure if this is the contract here. But I'm not mad about the Jimmy G contract. I've always liked Jimmy G. He's a proven winner in this league. I know in episodes in the past I've said proven winners, and that's a bold word to say, but it's 72 divided by 3 is 24, but I think Jimmy G can help this team. Obviously, is he a step down from Derek Carr? I personally don't think so. I think they're kind of right in that ballpark. Jimmy G is more of a conservative type QB. Derek Carr is more of a risky type QB. He'll air it out more than Jimmy G, but Jimmy G is comfortable in Josh McDaniel's system. They know each other very well. He's got some good weapons. Obviously, they just lost Darren Waller to the Giants for a third. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, but I'm completely fine with the Jimmy G signing. I know some people are, upset about it, and it puts him in a tough spot because he's in a very tough division. Now with the Chargers, the Chiefs, and then the Broncos are, reloading now this offseason. They got Mike McGlinchey, put him at tackle for Russell Wilson to get him some offensive line help. They signed Ben Powers from the Ravens, get him as offensive line help as well. So I just really like the signing of Jimmy G for me. And it's actually funny because a friend of mine texted me over a tweet, and he said, what were your thoughts about the Jimmy G signing? Jimmy G going to the Raiders, a stud like Jimmy G, a good looking guy like Jimmy G. And it's funny because I was just like, I personally don't mind it, honest. I think Jimmy G's got a lot of swagger. I think he'll provide that, spark that the Raiders need, get away from Derek Carr, that whole, situation this past offseason and this season as well. So I'm cool with the Jimmy G signing. I think he provides some swagger, some coolness, that Italian, macho man. So I like it. So I'm cool with it. How about Juju Smith-Schuster signing with the Patriots yesterday? The Patriots have been in the market for a free agent this offseason for a wide receiver. There was some reports that Odell could potentially go to the Patriots. They were looking into DeAndre Hopkins. That's still on the table as well there for, a draft pick or two. I don't think DeAndre Hopkins is worth the first round pick anymore, especially at his age and his concern of, being able to stay healthy at this point in his career. But I do like the Juju Smith-Schuster signing. The original contract was 3 over 33, and they ended up changing it to around 3 years, 25 million. So some Patriots fans were really upset about this because that was the same contract for Jacoby Myers, so they lost out on Myers and they replaced him with Juju. But I think Juju fits the Patriots, scheme. I think you can put him in the slot as well. I know Myers was their slot guy as well, but you add him into that wide receiver room that they have with Tyquan Thornton, Devontae Parker, and Kendrick Bourne. And if they do draft somebody at 14, now I think this may, take a toll on the 14th pick for them to draft a wide receiver if, they obviously got Juju Smith-Schuster. And if they will draft a wide receiver, I personally don't think they will now. Belichick's never been a big wide receiver guy, especially using it on a first round pick because obviously first round picks are so valuable. Really, really get something that you need. And I guess you can say in a way that they do need a wide receiver, but I think you can get, Hopkins via trade or maybe somebody else in the open market. But I would really like if they would use that 14th pick on maybe not a wide receiver. I mean, I know it would help Mac Jones out a lot, obviously for his, development and growth. And now that he's got Bill O'Brien with him as his offensive coordinator, thank God they got rid of Patricia. My goodness. But I'm not sold on them drafting wide receiver at 14, especially when there's other talent out there. I think in this draft, especially when this draft is so defensive heavy, where I think you could really, get somebody special on defense at 14. I think some guys will slide down, obviously, with this whole CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, and Will Levis, quarterback carousel in the draft. So I definitely think there's some more defensive help there for the Patriots that they could really, use instead of, drafting a JSN. And I think 14 for them would really be, wise to draft defense. But that's just how I'm feeling. So that's a little bit about the NFL. We got a few more things to talk about in the NFL. Jalen Ramsey to the Dolphins. How about that? That came out Sunday, and I was like, holy crap, the Dolphins got Jalen Ramsey. I mean, they barely got him for nothing, honestly. But the main thing is the Dolphins have to take on the rest of his contract. And I made a clip about this. The biggest concern with the Dolphins is how can they help Tua stay healthy? Can Tua stay healthy? That's the main concern there, because now they have all the pieces. I mean, I've never seen a team like this loaded, I guess, for having a rookie QB on the books there. Now, I guess you can say the Browns a few years ago when they had Baker, Odell, Jarvis, but I think Tua is obviously better than Baker, and they went out and they got Jadeveon Clowney. They did a few more free agency splashes there on their defense. So, but this Dolphins team now is in especially win mode. You just signed David Long. You just traded for Jalen Ramsey. I mean, and the pieces you already have. You got Vic Fangio as your defensive coordinator this past offseason. So the sky's the limit for the Dolphins. If Tua can stay healthy, don't put it past this team to really go all the way in the AFC. I know the AFC is loaded, but this team is very, very good. Now they have a few things to clean up on the offensive line. I know they don't have a first round pick this year. They ended up re-signing Raheem Mostert. They got Myles Gaskin back. He's another, part of their running back room there. They re-signed Jeff Wilson, so they get both of those guys back. Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert are very familiar with Mike McDaniel, as they were both in his system in San Francisco. So I do, like these, short-term cheap pickups of the Dolphins, obviously, because they ended up creating a ton of cap space, restructuring Tyreek Hill's deal, which was key. They restructured Bradley Chubb's deal. So this team is in win now mode. That secondary is stacked upon stacked. The only question for me is can Tua stay healthy? Because if so, this team can. I think they can go all the way. And I've said in recent years about the Dolphins, and even last year, people were very high and mighty on the Dolphins, but they were just concerned about Tua. But if he can stay healthy with this type of team, Waddle on the outside, Hill as well. They're probably going to lose Mike Gesicki. They're not a very big tight end team. That's not their style of play, obviously. So, but I really like the addition of Jalen Ramsey, especially he's a veteran in this league now. You pair him next to Xavier Howard, and it's going to be tough throwing on those two guys. That's for sure. So that's a little bit about the NFL. We covered a lot. The Aaron Rodgers saga, the Miami Dolphins on where they can go, the Patriots with Juju Smith-Schuster, the Eagles' woes, losing their free agents, recouping them with some younger guys as well. The Raiders signing Jimmy G. But there's one more thing we got to talk about before I do wrap up the NFL. I just thought to myself, Darren Waller to the Giants. I love this move for the Giants. This helps Daniel Jones a ton. This will help his growth, his confidence. And they had Daniel Bellinger last year as their rookie tight end. He's obviously nowhere near as good as Darren Waller. The only concern with Darren Waller is obviously can he stay healthy? These last two seasons haven't been very productive for him. He hasn't hit over 800, 900 yards, so, but the previous two before that, he was, at a superb tight end. And I still think, Darren Waller healthy as a top 5 tight end in this league. I wouldn't put him, in the 1, 2, or 3 spot, obviously, because you got Kelsey, Mark Andrews, and George Kittle. But I would slide him somewhere in that 4 to 5 spot, healthy. And I do think this will help Daniel Jones out a lot. And you basically got him for the Kadarius Toney trade. So I think this works out perfectly. Like I said, this helps Daniel Jones out a lot. And the way the Giants, go about it, they're not a deep threat type team. And I think you can slide Darren Waller right in there. He fits right into their scheme. Now the only question with him is he's a little older. He's getting on the older side. He's 30. That's kind of old, but I think you keep him for. I think he's under the books for what 1 or 2 more years. And if it doesn't work out, you're able to cut him. But for a 3rd round pick that you basically got, trading to the Chiefs for Kadarius Toney, I think it's a win-win. It's really just flip-flop in a way. I talked about that in a clip 2 days ago when he did get traded. So I like this move for the Giants. I think this can really benefit them as well, and it gives Daniel Jones another option. And I don't think they're done. In the free agency market for a wide receiver, and I don't think they're done. Obviously, I think they'll draft somebody at the wide receiver spot with 25. Depends on if they go off the board or not. But that's a little bit about the NFL. We talked, heavily about that. And yeah, so that's it for that. How about March Madness here? I'm super excited for March Madness. I am stoked to the point where I'm, boiling blue in my body. I don't know who's going to win this year, and I think that's what makes it more fun. Obviously, you got the Alabama, Purdue, Kansas, and Houston. Those are the four. Those are the 4 1 seeds for me, and I'm super excited. I'm pumped to watch March Madness as always. It's always fun when there's upsets. I don't really know if I see a lot of upsets this weekend, but I'm going to give you guys my pick. So here we go. So I did take Kansas in the bracket. I have a bracket with a bunch of friends this year, and we did do a bracket. I picked Kansas, and the reason I picked Kansas is because of their experience. They've been in this position many times before. Jalen Wilson's the Big 12 Player of the Year, and you may think, well, that's a little biased because I do root for Kansas, but I think they're the most experienced team in March Madness. Now, what's to say they can't go home in the Sweet 16 or even the Elite Eight? I think they're going to have, a tougher road than they did last year. Obviously, I think that team was a little bit better, obviously, because they won the, championship last year. They had Ochai Agbaji, Christian Brown was, a big factor there as well. David McCormick. They lost those 3 guys, but they recouped, getting Grady Dick this recruiting process for them. They got McCullough from Texas Tech, the transfer. So their experience is definitely still there. DeJuan Harris runs the floor for them. So I'm, all in on Kansas. I don't trust Purdue as the 1 seed. I never have. I just think their offense is too reliant on Zach Edey. And if you can, shut down him, find a way, Purdue isn't going to, win anything in my book. So my final 4, I do have Alabama, Marquette, Houston, and Kansas. My biggest concern with Houston is obviously the injury of Marcus Sasser. Is he going to be healthy? And that's the biggest concern because they did, make it to the Elite Eight last year, and then they got bounced. So I don't know. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. But like I said, I have Kansas and Alabama in my championship. I love what Brandon Miller's been doing as of late. They have experience as well with Javon Quinterly, and Brandon Miller's just been a freshman sensation this year. So I have my championship as Alabama and Kansas. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but that's what makes it more fun. And that's, what makes the tournament, go around. So, but I have an upset for this weekend here for the round of 64. Today, I actually have VCU beating St. Mary's. I have, what else do I have here? I have Penn State over A&M. I don't know if that's really an upset, but the way Penn State played against Purdue really has me, feeling a different way about them, especially with, Jalen Pickett. But I know people are really honing in on this Miami Drake matchup here. I think Miami can get it done in the round of 64 against Drake. I know Drake's, hot, obviously, and they're the big underdog, and it's always fun to see, the upset team win, to see them go dancing, obviously, further than what they're, supposed to go. But for me, I like, Miami's guard play with Isaiah Wong. I don't know if Omier is going to play. Not sure Omier, but I really like Jim Larinaga and what they have going over there. They've been solid all year long. They have, really great guard play. So I'm sticking with Miami on that one. I have Iowa beating Auburn. Something about Fran McCaffrey in the tournament. They never really go that far. Obviously, they won the Big Ten tournament last year, but I do love Keegan Murray's brother. I think he's an absolute stud. So this game here that I'm really looking forward to though is Michigan State and USC. And the reason I'm looking forward to that is because Andy Enfield, in the Pac-12, and then you have Michigan State, Tom Izzo. They call him Mr. March for a reason, right? He's won, so many games in March, and when they're not, expected to win. But this is a, veteran type team here. They know what it takes to, win in March. They're sneaky, and I think they get it done against USC. So I'm taking Michigan State in that one. Moving on to the Kentucky Providence game. This is a familiar face for some Kentucky fans. And obviously, Bryson Hopkins, he was on Kentucky last year. He barely even played, and now he's on for Providence, and he wants revenge. But I just think that Kentucky can run their offense through Oscar Tshiebwe. I think they're a little bit bigger, and they can definitely get this done. I don't have them going that far in the tournament, but I definitely think they can get this done against Providence today. Now they're the favorite, but don't be surprised if Providence does pull off this upset here with Ed Cooley and Bryson Hopkins. He definitely wants revenge for his short stint at Kentucky, but I think Calipari's team is a little more talented, and they can get this one done. One more game for this little upset here, I guess. Duke and Oral Roberts. I know people are thinking Oral Roberts can upset Duke. I don't see it. Obviously, I think the talent gap there is a little too much. You play through Kyle Filipowski, Jeremy Roach in the past. He's a veteran now on this team. He's been in this position before. Tyrese Proctor's playing great, down the stretch here. Duke's clicking at the right time. So I'm going to take Duke in this one. I don't think it'll be that close. I think Duke pulls away in the second half. Maybe Oral Roberts, gets them a little flustered in the first half. That's that's what March Madness is, about. Get them on their heels, but I think in the second half they will pull away. So that's it for March Madness. There's so much to talk about there, really, but you got to keep it short and simple. But like I said, I have Kansas, as my pick there, and debate, disagree, see what you want, but that's what makes it the most fun. So I want to talk about the NBA here a little bit here. And the first thing I do want to talk about the NBA is Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid. Now I do have some stats here about Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic. I don't think Jokic is going to win his third MVP. Obviously, the way that the Nuggets have been playing as of late, I think Embiid has really taken over that spot. And actually, as of today, it came out that Embiid did take over the spot for MVP as one, and Jokic is two. So Embiid this season is averaging 33.4 points per game. He's first in the NBA, 10 rebounds, 1.1 steals per game, 1.6 blocks per game, and he's shooting 53.9% from the field. He's the first player to average those numbers in a season since the merger. That's pretty spectacular, if you ask me. He's leading the NBA in scoring. First player to average those numbers, which is extremely special. Now let's move on to Nikola Jokic's stats. He's averaging 24.7, 11.9 rebounds, 10 assists in 61 games this season. Like I said, the Nuggets have lost 4 straight. Now it's obviously the course of the whole entire season. Of course, it's not just about this 4-game little stretch, but what Embiid has done this season is just spectacular. Like I said, he's my MVP, most 35-point games in a season since the merger. I think, looking at that there compared to what Jokic has done this season, I think he edges out Jokic. I really do, from what he's been able to do this season. And he's really, been durable. He's been healthy for the Sixers all year. Him and Harden are really clicking. They have, they're arguably the best duo in the NBA this year. Embiid's averaging the most points per game, and Harden is averaging the most assists per game for the Sixers and the whole NBA. So like I said, Embiid is my MVP. I'm really sticking on this one here. Just the way he's been playing down the stretch, and he just seems so much more comfortable as of late. But he's been dominant this season. I mean, he has 24 games this season with over 30 points per game. I mean, he's been special. Like I said, you really can't put it past him with averaging the most points in the NBA. The last time that I remember a big man averaging the most points per game in the NBA is Shaq, from what I've seen, in past years. So like I said, Joel Embiid is my MVP. I'm sticking with that. If Jokic wins his third. And I mean, that would be special. You would join Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, and Larry Bird as the only other MVPs to win 3 straight. But I'm going with Joel Embiid. And originally I had Jason Tatum, but he's been slipping as of late, and I'm just not confident in the Celtics as of late. I think they'll figure it out, but I just think Joel Embiid has had such an impact on the game this season for the Sixers. Even when James Harden was out, he was still carrying the load. So Embiid is my MVP. But I do want to talk about the Milwaukee Bucks. They're 18-2 in their last 20 games. I mean, it's crazy to think about it. It's special. And Giannis has been in and out of the lineup too. That's another thing there as well, which was funny. They had that scuffle a couple days ago, the Kings and the Bucks. And I love the Bucks. They're just so deep as a team. And Brook Lopez is having a arguably defensive player of the year type season. So they've been special. They've been clicking on all cylinders. They've been they've been very, very special this year. Just the way they've been playing, even without Giannis, when he was, he's been hurt. He had that little bit foot injury. He had that, minor wrist injury that he suffered before the All-Star break. And they've been great. They really have. So I want to talk about the Lakers a little bit with D'Angelo Russell and how the Lakers probably don't plan on, going after Kyrie Irving this season or this offseason. I don't think the Lakers should go after Kyrie Irving. I really don't. I like the way D'Lo has been playing for the Lakers. Now you can say, Kyrie Irving's a, better player than D'Lo. Yeah, but D'Lo is much younger than, Kyrie. He's only 28. I think Kyrie's what, 30, 31, 32. Let me look that up to make sure Kyrie Irving's actual age. Kyrie Irving is, let's see here. Kyrie Irving he's 30. So he's 2 years older than D'Lo, and Kyrie load manages basically every other night. He hasn't, played a lot of games with the Mavs. He's been in and out of their lineup, hurt. And I think D'Angelo Russell is more reliable than Kyrie. Now, obviously, Kyrie is a better player, of course, but the way the Lakers are going, obviously, when you're going to lose LeBron, those times, I think you want to, stay with a guy like D'Lo. He's very comfortable with the Lakers. He's been there before. He knows their system. He's, flourished as a guard. He's matured. And I think, this upcoming, rest of the season, and if they do make the playoffs, will determine, his time in LA. He wants an extension, and I think he's going to prove himself. And I think he's already starting to prove himself. Obviously, they had that blunder against the Rockets last night, but, the games he's played, he's been great. He's averaging, 18 a game this year, six assists, 3 rebounds, in 62 games. And he's only played a really short time with the Lakers, but I really think that they should really focus on re-signing him and, get away from the whole, Kyrie drama, because they wanted to trade for Kyrie. There was too much of a haul, but I really like the idea of sticking with D'Angelo Russell, pair him with those younger guys that you already have. And why take on another guy like Kyrie when he's injury prone in a way, and he also load manages when you have LeBron and AD who missed now in LeBron's career. He misses his 20 games or so. He's already missed 25 games this season. So, and you have AD obviously who can't stay healthy in a full season. He's spectacular on the court when he does play. He didn't get a chance to play in Houston last night because the doctors don't let him play back to back. That was just something that they, ruled out from his time with his foot injury. And it's tough because they probably would have won that game last night. But no, like I said, I think you stick with D'Angelo Russell. You build around him in a way for, the foreseeable future, because LeBron is obviously got maybe a year or two left around there. And then AD is, just turned 30 this past Saturday. So he's aging. But I really like the idea of keeping D'Angelo Russell and, going from there, sign him to that contract extension. And I think he definitely deserves it. And he's going to play his way into the contract this upcoming offseason. Depends on the playoffs. So anyways, how about Steph Curry last night against the Clippers? I mean, what can't this guy do? I mean, it's just been special what he's been able to do since he's been back. He's joins Alex English as the first, one of the first only 35-year-olds to drop 50 in a game. And he's the first 35-year-old 50 points and 8 plus 3-pointers in a game. I mean, that's just crazy when you think about it. But the Warriors haven't won on the road since January. That's the biggest concern there. And I think you can, go back to the point of no Gary Payton this, in time that he's, came from the trade deadline. And then Andrew Wiggins is, dealing with the stuff that he's dealing with off the court. And I think that really affects them a lot. And their chemistry hasn't been the same. Obviously it's not the same team as last year when they won the championship, but I just think that I don't even know if the Warriors will figure it out, to be honest with you. They're just so hot and cold. It's the weirdest thing, the flip-flop record on the road compared to being at home. They dominated the Suns the other night, and then they go into the Clippers on the road last night, and they're in a tough battle, and Steph Curry basically almost, is able to bail them out, but he's not able to. Like I said, I just think this team will go as far as Steph Curry will take them. The engine will keep going as long as Steph goes. But it's if Steph doesn't play the way he plays, I don't think the Warriors will go very far, honestly. Like I said, their defense is not the same. I think they desperately need Andrew Wiggins back. I really, really do. He provides, that two-way sense for them on, offense and defense. His presence on the floor is definitely missed for sure. So that's it about the NBA. Talked about March Madness. Can't wait to watch that. That's going to be super exciting this weekend. And the NFL was crazy this past week with all the free agency deals, and there's going to be more. But that'll do it for us for today. I was, super happy to record for you guys, get this episode out before March Madness starts. And make sure to follow us on TikTok at the IQM Pod, Instagram at the IQM Pod, YouTube, obviously, the Inquisitive Mamba, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. As always, thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time.